Protect yourself and your family from unexpected challenges. Consider accident-only income protection. Click the link in the description to find out more.
You want anything bad enough? Don't make excuses. You gotta lose your time and your sleep for it. You find a way.
Sahni, we're out here in Riyadh. Riyadh season is literally like taking this game to another level. Day of reckoning. It was announced, and I think a lot of people were probably thinking, "Nah, this show ain't going to happen. It's too good to be true." But we're here, 5 days away.
I think you're right. Too good to be true. That was the feeling, right? I remember, like in the few days building up to the press conference, and I was seeing a few like emails and messages and stuff going around, and I was just like, what do you mean these fights are going to happen? What do you mean we're going to be putting on this show? Like, because you got to remember, initially this was going to be Fury versus Usyk, and then it was going to be some sort of contingency plan, but this has turned into something altogether different. It's an absolute monster. I still can't believe it's happening. I can't believe we're here, and I can't wait for it. Fancy having Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder on the same card. I know, some people are moaning that, but they're not fighting each other. Yeah, but they're probably gonna, right? Like, this is the closest we've come to it. It feels like a really good time in boxing.
I think more people are excited about Anthony Joshua and Sahni sharing the stage again.
It's a big rematch coming up. Let's see how that goes. I'd imagine like people will reflect on the first fight as a very clear one-sided knockout. I didn't really have a lot to say up there. I can't imagine I'll win a rematch. So if he wants to go for me, I'm here. I'm ready to go.
You're doing the presser again this week, just to put that out there?
That is the plan. Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to that moment, just to see what happens. Do you just actually talking about that, obviously it's awkward, and it's been highlighted why it happened the way it happened because of some tweets he may have put out a few years ago, obviously, as he worked for Queensbury. But with regards to AJ, would you have a conversation behind the scenes, maybe try and smooth it over, or are you just going to just let it roll?
I don't know. I mean, look, if I see him, I don't know if I'll try and approach him. Also, I'm not sure if it was so much about me. I know that's obviously how I'd think it, but everyone else is telling me, he was just perhaps a little bit spiky that day, and I got the brunt of it, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really bother me. It shouldn't be a subplot heading into the week, but it is what it is. It'll be great fun, and it'll be entertaining regardless of what happens.
Everyone loves a subplot. It's like a big thing in boxing, isn't it? But whilst we're talking about AJ, we'll talk about this Wilder-AJ relationship. We saw in that initial press conference how Wilder was like being respectful. They shook hands, they looked at each other eye to eye, and they gave each other a little cheeky smile. Then next thing you know, Wilder's doing interviews and saying he's mentally weak, and then Carl Froch's stuck his shoe in as well, and he said the same as well. But I spoke to a few people in the last few days, and I get your comments on this, because I find it quite a crazy statement to call boxers mentally weak, because that to me suggests if you're mentally weak, you're not going to have the balls to step into the ring. So where do you stand with all that?
It's a tough one. I can understand why someone may point at boxers because they are human beings and suggest that they are mentally weak. I know that they are the bravest of warriors. They're actually stepping in there to get punched in the face. But I feel like someone like Carl Froch or other boxers, they're sort of allowed to pick at each other. Same thing when it comes to like quitting in fights. That's a whole different debate. I feel like boxers are allowed to say it about each other, but we're not, because we haven't earned the right to say if someone's quit or not. And I feel like it's probably a similar thing with this mental weakness and trying to pick apart someone's mentality. It feels like because we don't box, I don't box, I don't know if you do, but because we are a step removed from that level of bravery, we're sort of not allowed, we're not qualified, and so I'm not going to say whether or not I think any of these fighters are mentally weak, but when I get the chance to speak to the fighters, I'll say, he said you're mentally weak. Like, for example, everyone's been saying about Anthony Joshua. Rollins had a go, as you say. Wilder away from the press conference has been utterly savage in the interviews that he's done, and Froch has jumped in as well. Just they're all sort of stomping on his head a little bit, but they are fighters. They're sort of qualified to do it, and I'm sure Anthony Joshua's had plenty to say about Tyson Fury. Fighters are allowed to have a go at each other like that.
It does spice it up a little bit. It's crazy, isn't it? But the maddest thing is we see it where at the end of the fight they all shake hands and they hug each other. Like a good example we saw with Sonny Edwards and Bam Bam. The press conference was like crazy. Sonny went in. But obviously if you know Sonny, he was selling the fight and he obviously did that. Well, I will touch on him at the end. So obviously Wilder Parker, intriguing fight. Everyone's here. The best thing is none of the fights have been cancelled. No one's got injured. Everyone's here. The other big talking point was Apatai giving his IBF belt up. Obviously two opinions on it. One is that people are saying congrats to the IBF not wanting the 2% commission or 3% I think it is, and basically sticking with their rules. But obviously the other argument is the mandatory was injured, so you couldn't fight him anyway.
Yeah, look, I think the IBF are quite known for being absolute sticklers for their rules. We've seen that a few times. We saw, Tyson Fury, after he won the Unified Championship, soon got stripped of his IBF belt first when he had that scheduled rematch with Vladimir Klitschko, because they didn't approve or they didn't want that belt to be on the line. I don't know what happened with that, but they have been known to do things like this. So if they are consistent with it and they are following their rules, you can't really say an awful lot. I think with this particular one, I think where it's a bit more sort of like it's taken people aback a bit is that all the parties, including Team Bradis, who is the mandatory, the fight that's been ordered, they've all said, okay, go on fight Ellis Zorro. It's just the IBF that have held it up. So yeah, I don't know. I think Opetaya is widely seen as the number one in the division right now. And if that's the move that he wants to make, you certainly understand it, and maybe he can go and get the IBF back after he rematches and avenges his loss to Ellis Zorro.
Look at that, Dev being at his right this moment. Somebody will be pausing this video in the comments, right, and there he is, Dev, the company man, because that's what they do, don't they? I think that people pause the video and they start commenting away, but obviously you got to back your guy Ellis Zorro. How much of a chance are you giving Ellis Zorro? Because obviously he's took a big opportunity on. He's had some good fights. I was there at Yokol when he had that little thriller, and he pulled out a knockout win. So, but he's going up huge levels here.
Yeah. Look, he's up against it. He's always up against it though. His whole career he's been up against it. As an amateur, he was up against it. He only had like a handful of amateur fights and people were writing him off when he turned pro. He's never tasted defeat as an amateur. He's never tasted defeat as a pro. And every step along the way where people write him off, all he does is keep on winning. So I'm fully aware, he's fully aware, everyone's aware that this is a leap up in levels. But he hasn't tasted defeat yet. He has got power that can end a fight. We saw that against Isaiah Burton. I think this is about the occasion. I've been quite pleased with his mentality so far. He's been talking about how Opetaya is just a guy with 2 arms and 2 legs, and that's how he's got to look at this fight. But let's see. He's certainly up against it because this guy is, I think he's probably the number one in the division. So what chance do you give him? Let's see how composed he can stay when Opetaya's right in front of him, stood like a southpaw, putting that lead hand out there, and we'll find out.
If I was to ask you, as a boxing fan, which fight do you think? Give me 2 fights, not one, but give me 2 fights that you think will probably catch fire and probably be the most entertaining on the night.
Daniel Dubois against Jarrell Miller. Oh, that is an unbelievable bit of matchmaking. There's jeopardy on both sides. Jarrell Miller's 35, right? He hasn't had his world title shot yet. He should have done many years ago. We all know what happened there. But he's now 35, and if he loses this to Daniel Dubois, who's only 26, 27 years old, there's a lot of jeopardy. You sort of write him off because his whole thing is, no one can beat me. I'm unbeaten. I'm 330 pounds. I throw 80 punches around, and he's loud and he's American. He's got all those things going for him. You start adding a 1 at the end of his record, a knockout loss to Daniel Dubois, which is what it would be if he does lose. He loses a lot of marketability and a lot of power in the marketplace, so a lot of jeopardy for him. And for Daniel Dubois, always there's questions about Daniel Dubois, and people are questioning his heart. And the general feeling about this fight that I'm seeing out there is that if Daniel Dubois doesn't deter Jarrell Miller early, Jarrell Miller will catch up to him and make him wilt. That's the kind of feeling, and I think that's brilliant fire for Daniel Dubois to have in this fight. And let's see if he can cope with that pressure. If he can, he makes himself a genuine superstar, because people have been looking for years to shut Jarrell Miller up. If he's the man to do it, that says an awful lot about Daniel Dubois.
What about the second fight? Which other fight are you looking forward to?
Look, there's the obvious ones, obviously, you always want to see Wilder fight, you always want to see AJ fight. I'm very intrigued by Arslanbek Makhmudov against Ajit Kabayel. Where has this fight come from? It feels like, because Kabayel, he had that great win against Derek Chisora, 2016 or 2017. He's never capitalised on it, but he stayed unbeaten. He's been in the mix, linked to bigger fights, linked to fighting Tyson, linked to fighting Anthony Joshua. It hasn't quite happened for him. If he beats this guy, that's a statement. That's like, okay, well, you'd have to consider him certainly top 7, top 8 heavyweight at that point. Makhmudov has looked a frightening monster. He looked frightening last time out at the Battle of the Baddest, where he beat up that junior Anthony Wright, really beat him up. And if he does this to Ajit Kabayel, by far the best win of his career. Obviously, there's an old Takam that he beat as well, but this would be the best win, and this would be a big statement. And they love him out here, by the way. As soon as he knocked out Junior Anthony Wright, he said all the right things to the crowd as well. They really got behind him, and he could have a star-making performance. So I'm very excited about that fight. No idea what's going to happen. No idea.
I love the fact that twitch he does with his neck. It's a scary-looking dude.
He is Bill Goldberg. He is prime Bill Goldberg. WCW, Monday Nitro, all the stuff going up, and all that's like, mate, I just remember staying up watching that thinking, who is this guy just wrecking everyone? So Arslanbek Makhmudov could be the next Bill Goldberg.
Just so you do that neck twitch, I'm just thinking that there's going to be a meme coming out of that, Dev. What else? It's a fascinating one. Looking forward to. There's obviously got loads more days, and we're going to speak to you loads more in the week. Last thing I want to wrap up on is Sonny Edwards. Obviously, you worked with him closely when he was with Frank Warren. How shocked and surprised were you with the ending, and also the first 4 or 5 rounds? I looked at the scorecards yesterday, and I think one judge had Sonny ahead, one had it a draw, I think one had Bam Bam ahead after 6 or 5 rounds. So up until that moment, it was a close fight, and then it just turned.
Yeah, it seemed to turn late on. Look, I'm a big Sonny Edwards fan. I was lucky enough to be one of the few in lockdown who was ringside as he beautifully outpointed Maruti Mtulani to become the IBF flyweight champion. And I thought he was going to do the same thing here. I thought he was just going to UD the hell out of Bam. But it showed me that Bam's very, very, very good. And yeah, look, Sonny showed something that we haven't really had to see from him so far. He's been pretty unblemished as a pro. A couple of knockdowns here and there, but flash knockdowns. And then he always comes back to float around and just win the fight. But in this fight, he had to show heart. And I think he goes out of it with his head held up very high. And he just lost to the better fighter on the night. Ultimately, everyone could end up in that position. All fighters lose, really, unless you're Mayweather, Marciano, Ellis Zorro, of course, as well, who's unbeaten as well. But yeah, why are you laughing? Yeah, unbeaten. But yeah, look, all fighters have to lose at some point. And yeah, Sonny more than met his match in Bam, but he's... The only reason anyone cared about that fight was because of Sonny Edwards. The only reason anyone cares about those smaller weights right now is really because of Sonny Edwards, because he is tremendous on social media. He's a great talker. He looks great as well. And he boxes in that way that people want to see him get beaten up. And, a lot of people got what they wanted on Saturday, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next.
Last thing, have you... at Queensbury or the Zone got any plans to get Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren sat together, talking, debating, whatever?
I mean, look, if the opportunity comes, someone will do it. Someone will do it. We haven't got anything locked in, but they're going to be around. There's going to be plenty of guys like yourself around as well who can seize the moment. So someone will do it. I don't know who, but whoever does get that footage will be very lucky. Very lucky indeed.
The challenge is on. Dev, we're going to catch up with you later in the week. Enjoy, and yeah, sure, it should be fun, man. Thank you for your time.
Good to see you, mate.
Thank you.
Have you ever been stranded on the side of a motorway with a broken down car? Like me, is that something that worries you? That's where motor breakdown insurance comes in. If your vehicle breaks down, a trained professional will be sent out to get you back on the road. Or if this is not possible within the specified time frame, to transport you to your home or to the nearest garage.
You want anything bad enough? Don't make excuses. You gotta lose your time and your sleep